Black Power, Freedom Summer, Sunday rally. And we're thrilled to have you here. It's a packed house, and we're also live streaming this program today to our comrades in St. Louis, in the Uhuru House in St. Louis. So I want to salute you all that's tuning in from St. Louis. Now more than ever, it's time to get organized. You and I both know that institutions like the African People's Socialist Party are crucial in advancing our struggle for liberation. And that's why we're calling on you to join us by visiting apspuhuru.org/join and help us build a branch in a Uhuru House just as beautiful as this one in your city. These Sunday rallies are powered by the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, which is a mass organization founded in 1991, leading the fight for bread, peace, and Black power in the 21st century. And you can become a part of InPDUM by joining or by visiting InPDUM.org/today. And choose the membership level that works for you. But I'll be sharing more details on that later on in the program. Our community rallies, the Sunday rallies here kick off every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern, right here in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I'm very excited for what we have in store for you today. We're going to be addressing a burning question: who is the African People's Socialist Party, or what is the African People's Socialist Party? We'll dive into an engaging 1-hour video special that was created by our dynamic agitation, our Black Power media team, and which is led by the incredible director, Akile Anai. She's in the back there. And so I also want you to grab your pen and pad, or you can pick up a program from the welcome table so you can take notes, because we'll have a brief 10-minute question and answer session. And for those tuning in St. Louis, don't forget to come to the podium so that we can see you and address your questions. We're just 2 short days from the historic trial. This is the last Sunday rally before the trial of the century begins. So our fundraising goal today is $500, and your generous donations are going to help continue to bring films like the one you're going to see today, discussions, conferences, and more to the community. Later in the program, we're going to hear from our special guests and historical figures in the anti-colonial liberation struggle, like Afia Ngwaza, like Unyo Lavario, I don't see them, but they're on our program. Okay. We'll give them some time. We'll hear from Charles Barron. Yeah. Caleb Maupin. All right. Jennifer Sullivan. Cole Humphrey. Joe Baker. Trixie Carpio. And we'll have a short video statement from Mukasa Reeves. So let me take you back to Friday, July 29th, 2022. On that day, the FBI launched a political assault on the African People's Socialist Party, the broader Uhuru Movement, and our leader, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Pre-dawn raids were carried out with dozens of FBI agents in tactical gear. They had battering rams, flashbang grenades, assault rifles, drones, and more. These attacks occurred simultaneously in St. Petersburg, Florida, and St. Louis, Missouri, where our recently established party headquarters is located. The FBI targeted us when they thought our leaders would be most vulnerable. They aimed to isolate them from each other and to prevent them from preparing for what's to come. But before we dive into the program, I want everyone to rise together for the African National Fight Song, the African Nation Fight Song. This was written by our comrade Eliki Ngoma, and following that, we're going to watch a short video that captures the events of the violent raid that I described. The lyrics are on the screen, so everybody raise your voice in unity and sing. Uhuru.
Africa, we are winning. Shout Uhuru for Africa.
This is the FBI. You have a federal warrant for this address. Keep your hands up and follow orders. This is the FBI. We have a warrant for this.
They handcuffed me and my wife out here. They wanted me to sit on the curb while they were carrying this out, something that I refused to do. They wanted my wife to sit on the curb out here, that she refused to do.
As I was coming out, this big old drone met me.
The only revolutionary organization that's done something here on the ground practically for African people is the one that's come under attack. Institution that offers a community radio station, a newspaper, a commercial kitchen, an Aquaba Hall rental space, and community office for our organizers. That was the building that has come under attack.
You need a breach? What do you need?
Need one.
I don't know.
Let's hold Benjamin money.
Hold
Thank you.
We will build a movement of white people that says hands off the Uhuru Movement.
They see in the African People's Socialist Party a vanguard for the struggle for the liberation of our people. They see that because not just what we do here in the United States, but because we had the temerity to do like Garvey, to do like Malcolm X, and take the struggle of black people around the world.
So, comrade,
I know that, student man, I know I'm sort of breaking discipline. I just wanted to say a few things because you're going to see another video. And what we are doing in part is to let you know who you're working with. The FBI has made certain charges against us, and I think what we will show you will help anybody to see that whatever you think of us or our opinion, you can see that without the origin of what we do, the origin of our activities and everything we're doing is tied to our philosophy and our history. We have a tremendous history that started much earlier than 2014 or 15 at the time. They say we became idiot employees of the Russian government. So that's what we would like for you to see, who we are. And I know some of you already
with that, I think we can go ahead and play the video. And just to say, it's a lengthy video. It's about an hour long, so get comfortable and don't forget to take notes.
The podium's
For 600 years, Africa has lived under the colonial rule of imperialist white power. The European invasion that led to the capture of our land and resources, the enslavement and forced dispersal of our people, has resulted in our centuries-long colonial domination. The colonial slave trade, where African people were turned into commodities for sale, birthed the parasitic economic system of capitalism, which allowed for the once feudal, war-ridden Europe to save itself through the rape and pillage of our Africa and the theft of our labor. For centuries, African people have been forced to live under the most humiliating, inhumane conditions. The atrocities committed against our people since the first Europeans set foot in Africa is impossible to enumerate here. But African people have always struggled against our colonizers to reclaim our dignity, lives, and future, as evinced in leaders like Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Harriet Tubman, Nat Turner, Marcus Garvey, and Malcolm X. As recently as the Black Power movement of the 1960s, we saw African people engaged in the anti-colonial struggle for power in tandem with world struggles being made by Cuba, Kenya, Vietnam, and others. Revolution was the main trend in the world, and the African Revolution was largely recognized as the catalyst that would bring about the total destruction of white power. It was during this height that the U.S. government assaulted our movement with the counterinsurgency, a war without terms that saw our leaders gunned down, thrown into prisons, slandered, and our communities reeling from the imposed crack epidemic. Today, we see the white world driven into chaos through the crisis of this social system. This new period, that can be characterized as the ascendancy of the slave, is seeing the system of colonial capitalism crumbling in rapid fashion. This period was ushered in through the efforts of the African People's Socialist Party, in which the history of the African liberation struggle is concentrated. It was the birth of a revolutionary party of the African working class and the leadership of one Chairman Omali Yeshitela that has allowed us to reset the course for African independence. This is Relentless, 50 years of leadership toward African redemption.
Well, I'm Omali Yeshitela. I'm chairman of the African People's Socialist Party and leader of the Uhuru Movement. I was really fortunate in so many ways as an African at the time that I was born, where everywhere within the African community there was discussions of what was happening with Black people. You couldn't go to any home, and you didn't have to be radical or militant, and in fact most of the people we're talking probably didn't belong to any kinds of organization except their local churches. So there was a deep kind of consciousness about the brutality they imposed on us and things like that, and that helped early on to shape my consciousness. In fact, I remember an incident in high school that contributed to my leaving high school in my senior year. Was really popular and very erudite a professor, a teacher. And I went to him, it must have been for something like government, something to that effect. And he made the comment in class that Black people would have to prove ourselves to white people before we could be free, something like that. And I challenged him on that. I told him I completely disagreed, with that, the other student in the class, jumped to defend the professor's or the teacher's statement, and that was significant to me. I guess I still remember it today. So it was an outstanding thing, but everything was outstanding. I mean, just there was no way you could live and not be aware. I learned to read when I was very, very young, very small child. And so I read all the time, and that's proved to be quite helpful for me. The military, U.S. military, was having this campaign about join the army and see the world, that kind of thing. And I felt I was somehow concluded that the limitations that I was experiencing in this city as an African had to do with this small city that I lived in and what have you, down south, etc. So I felt that I would go into the army. And my father admonished me, telling me like it's like breaking into jail. He said, you don't want to do that, but I went anyway. And he was right, and I was right. And the thing that made it right for me was quite accidental, and that I was sent to Berlin, Germany, and got to see part of the world and people and things like that I never would have seen, experienced. I was born and grew up in Florida. So I first faced the first really cold weather of my life in Berlin, in Germany. And I remember sitting in these tanks. These tanks are steel, and it is freezing. I mean, and I remember, but we have the radios, and we could listen to the radios. And this woman from the Soviet Union or from Eastern Germany, speaking English over the radio. They had radio programs, you know, and we listened to it because they had good music. And I never forget this woman saying something to the effect that this next song you're going to hear is called Peace Down Earth by Louis Armstrong, Peace Down South by Louis Armstrong. But of course, there has been no peace down south for such and such a period. And I never forget that she dropped that gem right there. And then the civil rights movement is heating up in the United States while I'm there. So that informed me a lot. And anyway, I ended up being sent back to Georgia. I left Germany, being sent to Georgia, and had all kinds of. By now, I'm angry. I'm extremely angry because I'm aware of what's happening to us. And I get to Georgia, this base, and I see these Africans. They would go to town on passes and what have you. They come back all blooded, beaten up, and what have you because of what white people were doing to them in those places. And other stuff was happening throughout Georgia, you know, so-called civil rights movement and et cetera.
Shortly after the chairman was discharged from the military, events continued to unfold throughout the world, radicalizing him in the process. It wasn't long after that chairman contacted the headquarters of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC. He established the first membership-based SNCC organization in Florida. It was as a member of SNCC that the famous mural struggle on December 29, 1966 occurred. An 8 by 10 foot white nationalist mural that hung in the St. Pete City Hall government building was torn down by the chairman. This first act of Black power was the precursor to the Black Panther Party storming the California State Capitol building on May 2nd, 1967.
And so we started demonstrating around the mural. We would start off in the African community and walk downtown, and we would do that on several occasions. And then on this one day, December 29th, we were marching through the African community, and this older woman, she quickly threw on a robe and some house shoes and joined the march. She wanted to wait for her. So when we got down to the City Hall, and we're standing up on the steps of City Hall, speaking from that platform, this woman, when she started talking, she was complaining about how insurance companies, this was typical, would take Africans' money for years, and then something happened, and then there was no money. So this was her complaint. And as she was standing there talking, and her English wasn't that good and what have you, and the white cops and reporters were standing in front, and they started laughing at her. And that infuriated me. That really infuriated me. So we had not planned to take that mural down then. We had talked about how it could be done in a very embarrassing way for them, because we said we can put on some coveralls and stuff like that and things like that, and put a rag in our back pocket and walk in there with a ladder and some boards, and we can go there and take it down in public view. Nobody would have thought anything, because that's what Black people are supposed to be doing, right? So, so we had talked about that, but we had not planned to take that mural down that day. This is an 8 by 10 foot mural that's been on the wall for 30 years or so. And we had written letters about the mural to the mayor and Herman Goldner. Yeah. So we had complained about it, and he had sent most ridiculous kinds of comments, just the most arrogant kind of white nationalist comments. So when the woman did that, I turned to my heel and I walked into the city hall, and Jody Wall, who was 17 at the time, he followed me in, and I started looking for a place that mural could be taken from the wall, and I found a little place, and I ripped it down. It sounded like a roar in this city hall thing, and we marched out. Anyway, they arrested us, and they charged me with 11 different offenses, and they gave others, a serious number of offenses. And their objective was to make sure that they got us on as much as they could. And they would have courts at something like 8, 9 o'clock at night. We've been dragged into courts and things like that. Extraordinary process. And because they were afraid. Because the cop who arrested me, he was literally trembling. When he grabbed my arm, he was trembling because this was a new breed of African. They had never run into this before. And we were talking about black power, etc. And they knew we had no regard at all for them. And so they jailed me. I went to, they charged me, like I said, with 11 different offenses. And then they sent me to prison on the felony for grand larceny. And that was a trip, believe me.
The struggle was on. During this period, activists were consistently attacked and thrown in jail, including Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Despite their attempts to stifle the chairman's leadership, in 1968, the chairman formed the Junta of Militant Organizations, or JOMO, and published the Burning Spear newspaper. Chairman organized all throughout the state of Florida, and JOMO became a formidable black power organization within the U.S.
My name is Chimaringa Silambao. I'm the National Director of Organization for the African People's Socialist Party. That's a good question. I was in JOMO. I was 17 years old, and I was recruited by Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who happened to be my oldest brother. So I guess I had it was sort of a genes thing. Other members of my family were politically active as well. He recruited several other members of our family. So at the time I was in high school, I was in my senior year in high school, going into my senior year. This was the summer of 1968. So in the middle of the summer, in August of 1968, there was a sanitation worker strike. So JOMO was kind of built off of that sanitation worker strike. So the chairman, other members of JOMO would get at the tail end of the demonstrations that were happening on a daily basis in support of, I should say that the whole African community supported the sanitation workers, which were almost all black. So every day there would be marches in support of the sanitation workers. So JOMO would get at the tail end of these marches, and at some point we might even veer off and go in another direction, but we would take part of it and then it would go the other way with the other part of it. It was being led by a man named Joe Savage, who was sort of the elder person in the sanitation workers. But they had some very young militant members of the sanitation workers. One of them was Fred Winters. But that is how that motion and activity was also in the aftermath of murder of Dr. Martin Luther King, that April, earlier, some months earlier. So it was a tense situation all over the United States for African people in the first place. And then this was a perfect set of political circumstances for the building of the hunter militant organizations.
In the height of the counterinsurgency, Chairman O'Malley and JOMO continued to organize throughout the state of Florida and the South, establishing branches, holding Uhuru festivals, leading struggles to free our political prisoners, continuing publication and distribution of the Burning Spear newspaper, all the while summing up the world situation through the point of view of the African working class. It was through these organizing efforts that Chairman met Keturah Carey, founder of the Gainesville Black Study Group, and Lawrence Mann, founder of the Black Rights Fighters in Fort Myers, Florida. All three organizations will come together to consolidate the African People's Socialist Party on African Liberation Day in May of 1972. The party in its infancy had assumed a major task: to solve the outstanding problems of the Black Revolution. Solving the problems consisted of identifying the fundamental one plaguing African people throughout the world. This led to the chairman publishing Colonialism, the major problem confronting African people in the U.S. This document was groundbreaking. Colonialism being asserted as the primary contradiction provided our struggle with coherence and a to what end. Identifying colonialism as the core presented struggles within different political sectors of the African liberation movement. The conclusions that the party would come to based on our understanding of colonialism were not universally agreed upon conclusions. Nevertheless, the party did not surrender to the opportunists, the imperialist white left. We fought relentlessly, and at every opportunity struggled principally as to advance the understandings throughout our movement. This understanding would lay the foundation for African internationalism.
I think it was really in the 1960s where we began to see more Africans who were involved in struggle, able to identify the struggle of African people in the United States as colonialism. I think that was a major thing that we had begun, and we were, if you look through that period of time and read the different stuff that I was writing and that we were writing about, you can see, that there were elements of confusion around certain questions, but we were constantly zeroing in, looking at it, at the question, stripping it, examining it, et cetera, and moving with it. The colonial question was critical. Defining this colonialism, that's like the ultimate issue, because you cannot fight against colonialism and still be an American. You can't hang on to America in fighting against colonialism. I think even some of the most ardent Black communists, Black nationalists, and what have you, I think that's part of even what the five-state thing is, not wanting to give up some version of Americanism. And so the colonial question spoke with finality. You can end this relationship. That's what it is. And the colonial question became extremely important. And this whole thing about, fighting against racism and colonialism is just like being an African American. It's just trying to hang on to this America. To fight against racism is to improve America. And why would you want to improve this system of oppression?
Colonialism, as the fundamental problem, placed another outstanding question into its proper context: what to do with the white people? Up to this period, this question was answered with philosophical idealist conclusions, relegating white people to mutants, monsters, and devils. This explanation did nothing to help us understand how we as African people are going to win our freedom. It was African internationalism that declared white people are people too, and they have a responsibility to the African Revolution under the leadership of the African working class. This understanding led to the founding of the African People's Solidarity Committee, the party-led organization of white people working in the interests of the African Revolution. While the white left were busy withdrawing their support and turning against the Black Power movement, APSC would be the vehicle we used to draw the line in the sand. We drove the struggle directly into the belly of the beast, the colonizer population. In the beginning, some of the primary work of APSC was to bring resources back to the African Revolution, holding various types of fundraisers that would set the foundation for many of our economic institutions. They gathered resources from their own colonizer population in support of major party campaigns, such as the struggle to free Desi Woods. This was a bold advancement that the party fought to win. Now, the brilliant strategy behind APSC and its mass organization, the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, further evinces the correctness of our position.
I just want to say that I think that the history of the African People's Socialist Party is really critical for the world to know. And the founding of the African People's Solidarity Committee was a very important part of Chairman Omali Yeshitela solving the problems left to him unresolved from the defeat of the African Revolution of the 1960s. And one of them was what to do about the white people. What should the African Revolution's relationship to white people be? So the founding of the African People's Solidarity Committee, which took place in St. Petersburg, Florida in 1976, was incredibly historic. You know, the chairman laid out that they were building a cadre organization, more than a mass organization, a cadre organization for political and material support for the party and for the African Revolution. And a number of people signed up for it, but it was very short-lived with that. And it took the party until 1985, almost 10 years really, to consolidate and win those of us who were members of the African People's Solidarity Committee to really become African internationalists and unite with the leadership of the African Revolution as our revolution, as this is that we could come to the same conclusions.
Perhaps one of the most profound party-led campaigns, the struggle to free Desi Woods, smash colonial violence, allowed us to raise up the colonial question and negate the ideological influence of the imperialist white left. During this period, we would meet Omowale K. Fing, a revolutionary giant and member of the party. He was a central organizing force, working alongside 19-year-old Denisha Blackearth, leader of the National Committee to Defend Desi Woods. The case surrounded Woods, an African woman who was sentenced to 22 years in prison for successfully defending herself and friend Cheryl Todd against a colonial rape attempt by a white man in 1975. This campaign had worldwide support, as the Committee to Defend Desi Woods toured internationally. We held countless demonstrations throughout the U.S., including the first demonstration to ever happen inside Plains, Georgia, the hometown of James Earl Carter, U.S. president sitting during the time of this campaign. The slogan to smash colonial violence became a dividing line. The opportunism of the white left was expressing itself in a profound way, as they attempted to make the primary issue one based on women's rights. We were told it would be easier to make this a feminist issue, but we held firm, and after intense struggle made by the people, in 1981, Desi X Woods was a free woman. During this time, where the party was receiving support and participation from all over, the party organized the African National Prison Organization, a mass organization that brought Africans back into political life with the question of political prisoners. The work to build the party was transforming. The chairman presented the political aspects to building a mass movement, the tactical and strategic objectives for Black liberation in 1977 at a Black Organizers Conference at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. This presentation, published in the pages of the Burning Spear newspaper, was widely studied throughout the African liberation movement and would inform the way in which we do work going forward.
When the party came out and said smash colonial violence, that was it. Because that made you have to reckon with the state. And if you know it's the state doing it, not some far-off idea in somebody's head called racism, then you know that if you're in solidarity, you are choosing to be in solidarity with the African working class and oppressed peoples of the world. And you can't hide. You can't hide out anymore. You're going to really acknowledge it, because if it's colonialism, we're a part of it. Colonialism cannot exist on its own. I mean, you can have bad ideas, racist ideas about someone. It does not connect you to them in any way. But when it's colonialism, there has to be a colonizer and a colonized. And that is the ultimate truth. That really is what organizes one in a principled relationship with the African working class, the African Revolution.
Oakland, California, had been a hotbed for African revolution due to it being the birthplace of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. In many ways, it had been the center of the Black Power movement, and with our work surrounding the Desi Woods campaign and building the Solidarity Front, the party would bring the movement back to life in this city. For 12 years in the 1980s and early 90s, Oakland was the national headquarters of our party. We would conduct our party's first Congress in Oakland in 1981. The party intervened in countless struggles, especially in regards to housing, homelessness, and rent control. In 1984, we led the Community Control of Housing Initiative, known as Measure O, which organized numerous volunteers who delivered more than 300,000 flyers to the doorsteps of Oakland residents, which resulted in winning 29,000 votes on the ballot. Our fierce struggles resulted in the takeover of an abandoned house in East Oakland for a homeless family, a generation before the rise of the Occupy movement. We fought the slumlords every step of the way, while bringing the African community of Oakland back into political life. The party conducted the second historical Freedom Summer project, and in a short time, we built a movement and opened the Uhuru House on MacArthur Boulevard. Huey P. Newton, chairman of the Black Panther Party, made his last speeches at the Uhuru House, passing the torch to the APSP after stating,
Uhuru House. Okay. You might not have the
It was the party who, following Newton's assassination in 1989, led a major campaign to change the narrative around Huey. After the media slandered him, all of their headlines reading from Prime Minister to Bum. The party declared that we would change those headlines by the time Huey's funeral came. We waged a scorched earth campaign, covering every surface with images and slogans extolling Huey. We also played a huge role in organizing his funeral, having even printed the program. Huey was right. The Black Revolution still had a pulse. Along with our Uhuru House, we would develop more community programs like the Bobby Hutton Freedom Clinic, Uhuru Bakery and Cafe, Spear Graphics, Uhuru Foods and Pies, Uhuru Furniture, and more. We would recruit Bakari Olatunji, one of the leading members of our party today. We would see a powerful leader in the form of Biko Lumumba, and develop a fraternal relationship with Uniendo Barrio, the Mexican Liberation Organization. In addition, we raised Lavelle Mixon up as an African martyr, defining this issue for our community after he killed 4 Oakland cops in March of 2009 in an act of African resistance. It has been the party's history in Oakland that has sustained the African community's revolutionary fervor through countless forums, campaigns, marches, and more. Today, the demand for reparations is being hotly debated. Case studies are being done by institutions as a means to legitimize reparations to African people in the U.S. The same forces who were vocally opposed to the demand are now proposing various types of reform or poverty programs as reparations. But why are they discussing this now? It's because the party determined that we would make reparations a household word over 40 years ago. In 1981, the party revised and adopted our 14-point working platform, with point number 11 being, we want the U.S. and the international European ruling class and states to pay Africa and African people for the centuries of genocide, oppression, and enslavement of our people. We took this demand to the streets to be embraced by the African masses. In 1982, the party held the first of 12 consecutive world tribunals in Brooklyn, New York, where Chairman Omali Yeshitela served as the people's advocate. The proceedings of this tribunal employed the use of international law to prove our case and indict the U.S. on the crime of genocide against African people. The first tribunal featured testimonials from different sectors of the African nation, raising up the crime of genocide as it related to education, poverty, healthcare, prisons, and more. Among the speakers was Comrade Mafundi Lake, political prisoner in the state of Alabama, Afeni Shakur, former member of the Black Panther Party and mother of Tupac Shakur. In our work to build for the first tribunal, we met fierce revolutionary Gaida Cambone and built the African National Reparations Organization. The consecutive tribunals would take place throughout the U.S. They would gain news coverage and interest of Africans from all over. This was not the extent of our reparations work, however. During the Reagan administration and the threat of government assistance cutbacks, the party raised the slogans, "They say cutback, we say payback, reparations now," and "Food stamps hell, reparations now." The responsibility of APSC began to expand. Fight for reparations to the African Revolution. Organize among the colonizer population for reparations to the party's self-determination programs.
We, as the party built the tribunal on reparations to African people, the initial tribunal was in Brooklyn, New York in 1982. That was another chapter, but that was all connected to the same period. But just the party taking on, raising up the demand, a mass demand in the African working class for reparations to African people as a revolutionary demand. And, something that none of the African petty bourgeoisie or white left would support that at all at that time.
The African People's Socialist Party is regarded as 21st century Garveyites. Marcus Garvey organized 11 million Africans into the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, raising up the slogan, "Africa for Africans, at home and abroad," in recognition that we are one African people. African fundamentalism, the worldview that informed the Garvey movement, has been advanced through the leadership and work of Chairman Omali Yeshitela into African internationalism. African internationalism brought us to the same conclusion, that we are one African people, and our task is to unite and organize the entire, globally dispersed African nation under the leadership of a revolutionary party of the African working class. That is why, at the party's first Congress in 1981, it was resolved to build the African Socialist International.
50 years of African People's Socialist Party leadership has transformed the African National Liberation Movement. When you think of the work the chairman has produced in terms of theory, because until that moment, when you talked about revolutionary theory for national liberation, for world socialism, you have to look into Lenin and Mao and others. But when you look at the work the chairman has produced, you see the intensity, the depthness, of the scientific worldview that he has developed, and which basically he's now in the hands of the African working class. He's just historical. He's just like a earthquake, that basically shakes everything, changes everything. Work we have done just to connect Africans from everywhere. From London, we were able to go everywhere. When you think in the year 2000, in the 90s, we searched, and that was before the first SI conference in 1999. We contacted every organization we heard of, particularly between 1995 and 1999. And sometimes with success, like the Ivory Coast comrade at the time. So we made different groups. There is no group that we didn't reach. If we believe there was a potential to win them to the side, and we could do that because we were armed with African internationalism. The correctness of that philosophy just gives you the authority to go anywhere and engage with any organization. You feel that you should win them to the other side. In fact, every time we went somewhere, we were breaking new grounds. Like, for example, when we went to France, Belgium, Germany, and so on, we did the ALD. In the first one in 2012, people, the African people don't really do ALD in Paris. We introduced it there. Not only we introduced ALD, we introduced also a newspaper, working class newspaper, a revolutionary working class newspaper. For example, this is the first bilingual. We had for the first ALD, you can see it's April or May 2012. That's in French, Expulsion des familles africaines à Courneuve. So we gave voice to the African working class being expelled by the French state, defending the African working class right to decent housing, So when you flip the newspaper, you get the English side, basically half is English, half in French. So that's new ground because the African working class never had a newspaper of his own anywhere until the Burning Spear, was given to them. And we went to Germany. We had meetings in Frankfurt. We had meetings in Berlin. We had meetings in Wuppertal. And now all these places we introduce Africans to the new evangelism, revolutionary evangelism for the African nation. That if you unite with this thinking, if you put this in practice, you will definitely build a new African nation.
Our work extended throughout Africa, Europe, and the Caribbean, recruiting party members and building organization on the ground, establishing our influence and worldview in every place we touched.
That they believe in a united Africa, where all Africans will come together and be able to join the benefits of Mother Africa. How can they then go to the ANC, who says that Africa belongs to all who live here? There is no principle in that stance. I am sorry. I believe that we have to demand principal relationships among each other. We will not win unless we do that. We cannot be better ANC than the ANC is. We cannot run around trying to find this formula that will not upset anybody like the ANC does. I am telling you, the ANC has now got a copyright on Socialism in Tanzania. So you cannot destroy that copyright. What we have to do is stake out our base among the masses of the oppressed that the Pan-Africanist Congress has done. And then regardless of whether anybody likes it or not, we have to strike out for the freedom of occupied Tanzania in solidarity with Africa and African peoples around the world.
Even before the party's founding, Chairman Amalia Shatella recognized that the African Revolution was inherently connected to liberation struggles happening around the world. We demonstrated this by participating in the Puerto Rican Socialist Party influenced Bicentennial Without Colonies in 1976, holding demonstrations in solidarity with the struggle of Iranian peoples starting in 1979, speaking at a conference in solidarity with the FSLN government of Nicaragua, representing the African nation in 1981. In our work to build the African Socialist International, we conducted a tour to France and England in 1983 and met with the Irish Republican Socialist Party in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Shortly after the chairman's visit, their headquarters was burned down and their leader assassinated. In 2015, The chairman would represent Africa at the Dialogue of Nations conference held in Moscow, Russia. The chairman has taken African internationalism everywhere. And just as Ho Chi Minh looked to Garvey, it became increasingly clear that the African Revolution will free up all of humanity. Through our work building the African National Prisons Organization and the African National Reparations Organization, we had established the basis for mass organizing. However, in 1991, the party founded the National People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, later to become the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, InPDUM, in Chicago, Illinois, the place where former Black Panther Party leader Fred Hampton had been assassinated. InPDUM was founded to bring the African masses back into political life, as well as recruit a reserve pool of forces to bring into the party. Through InPDUM, we have waged many anti-colonial campaigns to defend the democratic rights of the African community. The first president of InPDUM was Nkura Njeri, the widow of Fred Hampton and mother of Fred Hampton Jr., who the party defended after being stuck with an 18-year prison sentence for a framed-up arson charge. Perhaps one of the most historic struggles involving InPDUM was the pitched battle between the African community and the colonial state in St. Petersburg, Florida in 1996. The St. Pete police murdered 18-year-old Tyron Lewis on October 24, 1996. The aftermath led to 2 intense battles and a city forever changed. This struggle was known as the Battle of St. Pete.
So the Battle of St. Pete. Whew. Now see, that was like interesting times. And I say interesting because, I had never experienced rebellion. I know St. Pete has a history of rebellion, and the fact that the party is the reason why the people are, have a connection and understanding the material relationship that that we have with this system, and people can identify where the problem's at, and the Battle of St. Pete. It's crazy because it was October 24th. This is when Tyron Lewis was murdered, and I wasn't on the scene then, but I found out about it. It's crazy. Well, I had a baby, and she was born on the 22nd. So I was in a rough situation as far as relationships wise, but I was totally oblivious to what was happening because I was living like 6th Avenue North, may have been, and 33rd Street, and like I said, I was having a rocky relationship situation. I had a newborn child born on the 22nd, and on the 24th that evening, after she was before she was sent home from the hospital, I went to. It was on 34th Street and 5th Avenue North to the gas station. I think it was a Chevron at the time. And I went to use the phone, and the payphone. And I saw these cops. It was probably about 3 of them or so, and they were in full riot gear. I don't know what's going on. So I pull up, use the payphone, and they cursing me out, telling me to get on about my way. I'm like, what's your problem? Why y'all dressed like that? You look kind of foolish. And so one of them was like, oh, he don't know. Okay, so I made my way back to back to the south side, to the house that I had moved to. It sat right on Tyron Lewis Avenue, formerly 18th Avenue South. And when I got to the south side, you saw it was nighttime. It had reached night at that time, and you saw like in the horizons like blazes. It was like luminous light, red, it was yellow, I'm like, what the heck's going on? So I jumped in that 6'5" Impala I had and hit down the road. One significant event when the pigs attacked the Uhuru house, and I think in the paper they said they unloaded all the tear gas canisters they had in the city of St. Pete, and that's a lie. And when they discharged those canisters, they're on fire when they discharge them. And it it was an InPDUM meeting on the 13th of Wednesday, and I was a little late getting there. I was working at a group home, right in Coconut, so I'm loading the boys up in the van. So I'm like, you know, I got to get to this meeting. So we get there, the roads are blocked off, you know, and I see the commotion. I see the police shooting this tear gas and stuff at the building, at cars, and there's a lot of smoke and you see fire. And they were like deliberately shooting tear gas at the trees to set the trees on fire. So I was able to maneuver the van through the community and get out, and we ran up. So I took a water hose from the back and just started immediately trying to put the fires out that they started, and it was crazy. And I looked and I saw the side door bust open, people trying to get out, and they're shooting tear gas at people like they were trying to kill people. You know, no joke, they were trying to kill people. And when I say, when you're grounded in the community and there's this, and the fact that the movement has been here so long, the people understand who they need to protect. And when I say I looked to my right, and it felt like an army of young people rushing down the road, and they identified what we identified later as Ghostface. They put the t-shirts around their faces. And when I say they protected and saved lives, this community did that. Protected and saved lives, and whatever ammunition they had, they unloaded them, and you saw the St. Pete police, they fell back. Now you heard them saying, fall back, they under heavy fire. They were.
Tear gas starts coming through the front door. And now it's a panic, a total panic. People are scrambling, so we lead them into the back room of the Uhuru house, which is actually a gym at the time. Uhuru's gym of our own, black gym of our own. So that door separated the main hall from the gym. So we're getting people to come back in the back as the room, this room is filling up with tear gas. And as a matter of fact, I remember Pop Lancaster took some pictures of the tear gas when started to build. I had a very pivotal moment as I coughed from the tear gas in the back. I remember very vividly, people are coughing and trying to recover from the tear gas, and the chairman very calmly looked at me and he says, St. Pete will never be the same if we survive. And I remember thinking, that's not a very reassuring that's not a very reassuring statement.
Today, InPDUM is headquartered in St. Louis, Missouri, following the party's building efforts since the Ferguson rebellions of 2014. Columbai Antoinette was appointed as the president, and under her leadership, we've seen InPDUM grow its international presence, advance major campaigns like Africans Charge Genocide, Black community control of the police, and more. 2021 marked 30 years of existence for the organization. In 2015, the party also consolidated the African National Women's Organization, or ANWO, to open up our mass front by explicitly organizing African working class women whose significance in shaping the future has ordinarily been undermined through backwards ideas. We also found ANWO to be strategic to challenge the bourgeois ideology of feminism, to instead arm African working class women with their own theory. ANWO is an international organization that has built a presence throughout the US, in Europe, and Africa, and is led by President Yejide Orunmila. The variety offered through our mass organizing efforts has resulted in the party's incalculable reach. Our party is well known for our beloved economic institutions. Today, scores of shoppers patronize our furniture stores in Oakland, California, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Many vendors and customers alike look forward to our One Africa, One Nation markets or our Holiday Uhuru Pies campaigns. The Uhuru Movement today has over 50 economic institutions and programs, bringing economic self-reliance to the work of the party and establishing dual and contending power to negate the influence of colonial capitalism. The chairman introduced the concept of dual and contending power to the world, and it has characterized all of our economic development initiatives. Our oldest institution to date is the Burning Spear newspaper, in print for 53 years. The Reparations fundraisers transformed into the institution well known as Uhuru Foods and Pies, based in St. Petersburg, Florida, and Oakland, California. Following the 1985 MOVE bombing, the party went into Philly under the slogan, "Reinforcements are on the way." This history of struggle helps to show we have fought tooth and nail for everything we've built. Through fierce battles, we established Uhuru Furniture and Collectibles, an institution of the African People's Education and Defense Fund. Today, located at 832 North Broad Street, this institution has spin-off businesses like Enzo, African Styles at Home and Abroad, and recently, Uhuru on the Move. We also built the One Africa, One Nation flea markets, health festivals, book fairs, all of which have been responsible for employing hundreds of African vendors. Through the All African People's Development and Empowerment Project, or APDEP, African Skills for African Liberation, the party opened up a new front to access scientists, doctors, and the like, to win them to turn their skills over to the African nation. Headquartered in Huntsville, Alabama, and under the leadership of Dr. Aisha Fields, APDEP has paved the way in African independent agriculture with our community gardens in Huntsville and Houston. Our disaster relief program, Project Black Ankh, was developed to negate the colonial Red Cross. We traveled to Sierra Leone during the Ebola crisis, built a maternal health clinic that helped to safely deliver 300 African babies, and in the last several years, APDEP has provided the African internationalist response to the colonial virus, COVID-19. The economic work is led by Deputy Chair Ona Zene Shatella, upon whose arrival represented a new era in party building. The work under DC Ona's leadership saw the rapid development and professionalism of our institutions and practices within the party. She instituted manuals and plans of actions, reporting processes, and in 2017, she developed the dynamic recruitment program known as the N2U Volunteer Brigade. She advanced the nonprofit sector of our movement through the African People's Education and Defense Fund, and forged Black Star Industries, a longtime vision of the chairman, reflective of Garvey's Black Star steamship line and other economic initiatives that sought to free up African workers from the traps of colonial capitalism. Just as we did in Philly in the 80s and 90s, DC Ona went into St. Louis, Missouri, and began work building the Black Power Blueprint Project. In the heart of the African working class community, we now have our Uhuru House Community Center, our Gary Brooks Community Garden, and One Africa, One Nation Market, our towering red, black, and green flag, housing for our African Independence Workforce Program, with a community basketball court, African Women's Health Center, and bakery cafe on the way. Within the last several years, we've also introduced the Buy Black Power campaign that allows for African business owners to connect, buy, and sell to one another as part of a conscious mission to economically empower the African community. This by no means is an exhaustive list of our work in this area. Our economic work has not solely been for the purposes of sustaining the African Revolution. It is a part of the anti-colonial struggle to overthrow the system of colonial capitalism and lay the ground for an independent African economy. In 2008, with the selection of Barack Hussein Obama for U.S. President, the party initiated the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations, uniting African organizations to a basic set of principles. This formation helped to expose that the election of Obama represented the defeat of the Black Revolution of the 60s. Through this coalition, we have demystified neocolonialism or white power in blackface. We hold annual marches on the White House, bringing the demands of the African working class to the center of the so-called progressive anti-fascist movement. In 2015, the party held the Black People's Grand Jury to indict Darren Wilson with the murder of 18-year-old Mike Brown. During the rebellions, Chairman took to the streets of Ferguson, marching with the people and politicizing the situation at hand.
Place else is because of young Africans right here in Ferguson who stood up. I don't want to hear any criticism of these young Africans. It is because these young people stood up and they fought. They fought back like you're supposed to fight. When you are occupied, when your community is occupied, and they're shooting you down in the streets, you are supposed to fight
Throughout our party's history, we have utilized the electoral arena as a means to build a mass movement, raising the demands of our community. In 2017, the party ran candidates in St. Petersburg, Florida, on a platform of reparations, gaining national coverage, including a profile in Ebony magazine. In 2021, we ran InPDUM President Columbai Andanette for Alderwoman in St. Louis under the slogan, Revolutionary Times, Revolutionary Solutions, going up against a dynasty of neo-colonialists. In 2019, Chairman Amalia Shitelo represented the African nation at Oxford, debating the question of whether or not there should be a closer African union. The chairman's position received resounding applause as he was the clear winner.
We have to be able to break out of this, but it's going to take revolution in order to do this. African revolution in order to do this. African revolution that will destroy imperialism and the world economy that's responsible for the growing immiseration of the masses of people around the world. Uhuru.
And it doesn't stop there. The party continues to build, seizing new territory, leaving no arena uncontested. We've ushered in a new period of struggle, and cadre members of our movement are being forged like steel.
But the key thing is going to be whether Africans, we, assume responsibility for our future and assume responsibility for the future. And Africa is critical to the future, because here's where the real communism is going to come about, is because the colonial mode of production built into itself its own disaster. It has dispersed Africans all around the world. Every place we are located in Africa and other places central to the production, the capitalist production as such. That means that organized, ideologically informed, with the revolutionary theory and what have you, with the revolutionary party, then Africa and African people have the ability to bring the entire thing down and to grow a new world that's truly not primitive communism, but the real McCoy, as a consequence of those of us who function as the pedestal of this entire thing, get the power over our own lives, over the productive processes of the world, and create a whole new mode of production. And so that's what I think these 50 years contributes to, that we've been involved in up to now. But only we can hold the winning hand if we take advantage of who we are, where we're located in the world, the revolutionary theory that we produce, the revolutionary organization that we've created, and this history of this history of unending struggle, of our party that's representative of the history of our people, the relentless struggle for 50 years for the redemption of Africa, not for the freedom of some barbecue stand in the south of the United States, but for the redemption of Africa. It's our time. Uhuru.
So that's who we are. And I mean, I can say that in so many more ways, you know, because I was able to see so many of my family members in that video. It's so historic. It's so profound. And so when we have this on the program, we're gonna have a 10-minute Q&A session. But first, I want to, you know, really, off of just the energy of that video, want to say that, you know, we're in a critical battle for our freedom, you know, outside of the trial, but in terms of organizationally, you know, a lot of the financial contributions are vital to our movement, but this struggle requires so much more than that. It requires our time, our energy, and unwavering commitment to build this movement and expound on what we just saw wherever we are. So we're going to do a call for resources. We have the basket available. And, you know, rallies like what we're having today, you know, they're powerful, but they don't happen on accident. You know, it's a collective effort. People like you, like me, we're all coming together, lending our skills, and we're asking for you to also volunteer your time, bring your ideas to the table, because, you know, we need boots on the ground. We need voices in the streets and hands that are willing to do the work. And there's a lot of work to be done. So we want you to join this fight. This isn't a spectator sport, you know, it's a call to action. Yes. And together we can create a network of rallies all over. We can build new Uhuru houses, and we can, you know, make sure that our voices are heard loud and clear. So let's go ahead and rise to the occasion and make freedom a reality for all of our people, and even for the people on the way. We got a couple of Uhuru babies on the way. But while you're getting, you know, your contributions together, you know, as we just saw, we are in the presence of a revolutionary giant. This is a leader who is, you know, I mean, Chairman's commitment to the liberation of African people, to people in general, has shaped our movement and the course of history itself. He's not just a leader. Chairman O'Malley embodies our struggle, resistance, intelligence, and unyielding spirit. As you saw from his early days as Joe Waller, fearlessly challenging the colonial power structure in St. Pete, Florida, to his transformation and evolution into Chairman Omali Yeshitela, the visionary leader of the African People's Socialist Party and the African Nation. Oh, I thought that was him. You know, he's dedicated his life to the fight for freedom and justice and self-determination for African people everywhere. And as you just saw, his leadership has guided us through decades of struggle. From the Black Power movement's front lines to the Uhuru Movement's creation, to this pivotal moment in history, the trial of the century. But I gotta say, we've already won.
That's right.
The truth of our cause, our position, the righteousness of our struggle, and the strength of our unity have ensured that victory is ours. So as we stand here today on the, just a couple of days out of this historic trial, we know that the forces of opposition, they throw everything they can at us, but it just bounces right off. Broken, and they haven't even cracked us. They're not like us. They're not like us. And it's under Chairman Omali Yeshitela's leadership that we've shown the world that this spirit of African liberation is unbreakable. So now I ask everyone, is the chairman available? Where is he? He's in the restroom. I'm trying to do an incredible. I know, he has to use the bathroom like the rest of us. Oh my gosh, he's in there straightening up his shirt. I know because I'm his granddaughter. I'll be going back and forth too. Do we have the collection? Are we did we? Okay. Oh, here we go. All right. Questions together. So we have 10 minutes dedicated to our Q&A session. So if you have your questions, if you have your notes, now is your chance. And you'll come up, when you have your questions, come up to the podium and ask them, speak into the mic so that we can hear you. I know it's a little high up right now, but you can move it down if you need to. So let's get started. Who has the first question that they'd like to ask? And it can be a statement too, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
All right. It's an incredible giant on behalf of the environment. There's no other place that we'd rather be than this particular moment. Human beings. I think for us, it's really important, the significance and importance of revolutionary optimism in the times when people are being attacked everywhere, but yet despite that. So, I think to sum up that question of revolutionary optimism when you have the weight of this horrendous empire literally targeting you. And there's other work, but, I think that to start off, I think it's really important, significant.
Well, I think that is important, because for revolution, it's absolutely necessary to have advanced revolutionary theory. You have to be able to see the world, you have to be able to see the end game, right? And so the thing that this country has always done, it gets involved in these fights. You take Vietnam, for example. It could never understand why it was winning all these battles but losing the war, right? Because the war was victory for the colonized Vietnamese people. That's the struggle we're involved in. We can see the future. We definitely believe in the future. So if what we are dealing with now is certainly not something that we want, but we engage in the struggle, we don't burn out. Understand? Because we can see the future. And if you can see the future, you see decay, you see this thing falling apart. You know what? Pull it together, then you have an idea of what it takes for it to come down. So we can see the future. And so we're optimistic as hell. We are revolutionaries and motivated by optimism. We are optimistic. Because how the hell are you going to fight and make this struggle if you're not optimistic? So optimism is just real. Not the best answer.
So we have a mic set up here. All right, to bring our questions there.
Well, I'm not gonna sing today. My name is Ifia Wangaza. I'm director of the Malcolm X Center for Self-Determination and WMXP Community Radio in Greenville, South Carolina, who was a member
Yes.
of the Vine City
Yes.
SNCC Atlanta Project, which wrote the Black Power position paper. After much study, and the Uhuru Movement has done with that 8-page paper is, even as a co-author, is nothing that we were able to visualize at the time that we wrote it. It is an affirmation. It is of that moment, and it is the salvation of humanity.
Comrade Afia is one of the persons who played a real major role in the existence of this radio station that's here. I want to say that. And, but more than that, I mean, I think the SNCC dissidents continue to work. There are a lot of ex-SNCC people who we know. But the SNCC dissidents continue to work and participate in the struggle. And yeah, you know, this time to us.
Join the military. Right. So my question to you is, you know, the approach, the analysis on that, right? Because I honestly, when I had read that you had, you know, been recruited and then came back, I noticed that a lot of comrades in the struggle during those periods were former military, right? And that they were coming back and had seen it firsthand. So just, I wanted to know a little more about like the analysis you might have around that when you're confronting or dialoguing or convincing people to join our struggle.
Also, can you say your name and then
Francisco Chavo with
Most of the young people don't join the army to go fight imperialist wars. Most don't. I mean, there are some crazy people that but most of us don't. They dangle these opportunities and education, all this kind of stuff, and that's how they seduce a lot of us into this process. And especially at this age, because that's why we like to work college and university campuses too, because these are people who are ready to understand the world. Sometimes they go to the military to understand the world, they think and what have you. So that's been part of our experience. SNCC, by the way, a lot of people identify Martin Luther King with the anti-war position of the 60s. But SNCC, I mean, King's inner circle protested mightily that he should not start talking about Vietnam and international affairs, because that's the death knell. And but it was SNCC, hell no, we won't go. And SNCC, I think it was in South Carolina, rolled up on the bus of people who were being recruited rolled into the military base and punched out officers, who were supposed to be trained. It was SNCC. I mean, SNCC is direct piss, and I love SNCC. That's why that mural ain't there no more. But I think that if we look, back at another period, because especially when the draft was there, we would go to draft boards, we would do things and make it uncomfortable for people who were working in draft boards, even have demonstrations and things out there. But we have to catch the young people where they are. I can't. You're doing a marvelous job. I know what Union does, because people who come into our movement, into the party, et cetera, has come in through Union, the work that you do. But you're in the communities in the deepest kind of way, and the political education is continuous, and the crisis will emerge that will help them to understand even better. I do think if we can do work to keep the military off these campuses, I think that would be a critical thing, if we can keep the military off the campuses.
And the high schools.
Especially the high school.
Yeah.
Especially the high schools.
But when I went into the military, I had just turned 18 years old. And what happens in the military is that these young people, their first time away from home, and there's a culture in the military, especially with booze, you just drink. Like a lot of people you see haven't been in the military for a number of years. I mean, they're alcoholics and whatnot, you know what I mean? And so I'm with everybody. I'm the first time away from home, right? I can have beer, I can have alcohol, freedom, et cetera, so young people get involved in kind of wild things. I mean, in fact, one of the first personal contacts I had with a Russian was one in Germany, because I was in Berlin, which was divided in different sectors, and to get out of where I was in Berlin, I had to go through a checkpoint zone to get into West Germany. And, I was crazy drunk as a kid. We were on this convoy and what have you. And, I was trying to talk to this Russian who I wasn't even supposed to be off the vehicle. And I was trying to talk to this Russian, and he was ignoring me because I was a sloppy, drunk person talking craziness. And that annoyed me. So, I threw the most perfect left hook I knocked the guy out. I mean, he's in the pisser. I mean, it was a horrible situation.
Yeah, but I think you should mention that at the trial.
In terms of how young people get seduced into these situations, it's a macho kind of thing, But I think the work that you do and the work we do in these communities, I think that's the critical thing. And I think we have to start talking about the military and the war. I think we have to start talking about in our meetings, in our communities, the military, the war, because they romanticize this thing where you go to the airport and they say some bum, anybody who's in the military, you can get to the front of the line. I mean, that kind of stuff, they romanticize it and hold it up as this, a wonderful thing to do. And a lot of young people, they don't have political education, and they don't necessarily know what it is they're doing. Who was the general who wrote that his real employers were these major corporations? Remember who I'm talking about? Smedley Butler, yeah. What did he say? You remember, Caleb?
Where's the racket?
Yeah, war's a racket, yeah. I mean, we can educate, we have to just educate, it's our, take it on ourselves. I know the kind of political education you do in your communities. And we're trying to be as good as that, in the community, providing political education to the young people. There's all kinds of stuff that's seducing them, trying to seduce them now. Yeah. I'm sorry. Comrade Belinda Parker Brown.
In your own words, I've been pondering on some things, and I'm just a simple person. But in your own words, tell us, what is it that we want to take away from this trial that the world needs to know?
Yeah, I think that's extremely important. Our objective is by the time people leave this trial, they will know who the party is.
Yes.
They will know what the nature of the society that we live in, how it got to be this way. I mean, and what we have to do to change it. That's our objective. I think that tell the story. They attack us because they want the story to be told. They want to create a situation so they can say, if you complain,
yes,
if you criticize, the Russians told you to do it.
That's
they would liquidate our whole history. They would liquidate all the history of resistance and struggle, oppression that we've suffered. If you say something, and they target the Mexicans like that too, by the way. I mean, all of us in particular, those of us, we're the ones who they had declared. And I remember Facebook was one of the leaders of this stuff before you saw like the government obviously involved. You saw Facebook was identifying these people who were criticizing the country, et cetera, that they're looking at some kind of fake Russian invention. So you don't have a reality. You don't live with this country. Anyway, yeah. That's Comrade Uhuru. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I'm John with Spartacus League and Partisan Defense Committee, which is a socialist group, class struggle defense organizations. The defense of the Uhuru Tree is critical for anybody that would oppose this imperialist war machine, anybody that would fight for Black liberation, anybody that would take a stand critical of this government. And we're doing what we can to get the word out and help with the legal defense funds. We told you yesterday about the campaign to open the police archives and the case up in Polk County of Antoine Glover. A year ago, he was beat up and framed up and the charges were dropped. And then Friday, he was going to come down to this rally, but the cops attacked him again, put him in jail.
Oh my God.
He's out now, he's been freed, but that's going to be a case up in Barstow to keep an eye on, especially here in Florida.
Yeah.
So free Antoine Glover, drop the charges,
Yeah.
and free the Uhuru 3. I'd also, if you have seen our newspaper Workers Vanguard, which took up the cause, we have an off print on the Uhuru case. We're supporting the Party for Socialism and Liberation as drawing a class alternative in these elections. We'd be happy to discuss and debate that with all of you. But defend the Uhuru 3, hands off, drop the charges.
I wanted to say he's talking about Polk County. Polk County, the sheriff is a guy named Grady. What's Grady's full name? Grady what? Grady Judge. And he comes on TV all the time, and every time there's an arrest, he's going to tell the people what this horrible creature did. And they killed a young African a few years ago. They shot him 64 times. And I think he may have maybe was it a dog he was supposed to kill or something like that. They shot him 64 times. And when asked why did they shoot him 64 times, the response was because we ran out of bullets. Yeah. So that's Pope Count's Lakeland that we're talking about.
All the comrades that are here, Betty Davis of the Reparations Movement and the Lynn Stewart Defense Organization. The Stewart Defense Organization, because I want to acknowledge the fact that this organization was one of the first to hold up Lynn Stewart's rights to be an attorney in this country. And I'll never forget what the chairman said. He said she committed race suicide. Not just class suicide, but race suicide, taking on this case, taking on the Larry Davis case. And I wanted to always acknowledge this is the place we came, we were so desperate, and to say thank you. But in addition to that, I'm still focused on the question that my comrade, Sister Belinda Walker Brown from Louisiana asked you. And I'm connecting it to Fannie Lou Hamer and to Marcus Garvey when they say you are a communist stooge because of the way you are speaking. And the reason I'm focusing on that is that Fannie Lou's crime, where she was attacking a particular institution and saying that the Africans in this country need to control that institution, and she called them the disloyal black traitors or something. Yeah. And she was referring to the people in the Democratic Party. Yeah. And she never got seated. Yeah. And then secondly, we know Marcus Garvey's incredible crime. Nobody could unite the Africans in this country the way that organizer did. Yeah, that's right. And one of the things I keep seeing when I come to your rural house, I think about all the institutions that you're building. And when you speak about the colonial mode of production, and our job is to replace that with a colony. I mean, we cannot talk about the liberation war that has to be fought to overthrow capitalism today. But in the meantime, what are we going to do? When I talk to young people in the college classes or high school, they always say, yeah, but in the meantime. And that's what I think I see you doing. And I just can't turn it loose that that's really why they are attacking you. Yeah. It's not just a question of freedom of speech. It's a question of metaphysical imperialism. I will control your words so that you flip the switch on that. Like Malcolm said, it's not a Negro problem, it's a white problem. So it's not a people problem, it's their problem. And you cannot analyze it. So I want you to tell me I'm wrong or right about that. I think that's the issue. It's not just freedom of speech, it's that the speech makes people think outside the box.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. I mean, that's part of what we've been talking about. When we talk about building an anti-colonial human rights movement, because see, African people, especially standing up to change our relationship to this government. We talk about being a colonized people. If, for example, you never saw, like, what is the oldest black organization in this country? NAACP? Yeah, okay, so how many economic institutions does it have? How many has it ever created? And why don't they have an economic institution? Because they see the solution as joining with the ZIM system and somehow improving the system. The anti-colonial struggle is saying that we have to be a self-governing, dignified people, that there's no dignity in being a complacent, compliant slave.
Thank you.
What we've done is part of the strategy that we've taken on is to create dual and contending power as a part of the culture. You got got a school, we get a school. They got a school, we need our own school that contends with their school, contends with what they have. And so I just think that's really important. That's what we try to do. We got, farmers markets, and we've got, we've talked about the market in Philadelphia and what have you. I mean, there's 100 or so people who get a livelihood there, and this is in a so-called food desert. But we don't match Walmart. You understand, in terms of the reach? Not yet. But we contend. We don't just have another shop that's in contention with the existing kind of social order. And guess what? We've done it, and we're going to do it, and we're going to use the Constitution. We're going to force them to say the Constitution not for Black people. You got to say the Constitution is not for Black people. Say it! You understand? And so pull it out, and then that will help educate Black people, right? Won't it? However however the state moves, African people will be educated. People always, in every instance, try to solve a problem the easy way. Right? Ain't that right? You know what I'm saying? Let's find a hard way to solve this problem. No. They try to solve the problem the easy way. And one of the easiest ways we've been told to solve the problem is to vote. Except they don't just say vote. They say vote for the Democrats. Vote for Obama. Vote for who we say, but they say vote. So people go out and vote, and I'm gonna move. I want to just say this about the whole voting thing that doesn't get addressed enough for us. We talked about Freedom Summer. This is what we engaged in, and out of Freedom Summer came the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act in 64, 65. We also came out of that 66, Black Cloud, right? 66 and the later part of that, Black Panthers, all this stuff. And because the Black Panther came out of Lowndes County, Alabama. Isn't that right?
Finalized on my kitchen table.
Yeah, this is what they're talking about. So all of that came from this and what were Black people fighting for? It was basic democratic rights. We wanted to have the ability to even utilize the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, all of that stuff is what we were fighting for. It wasn't like people were running around with guns, just trying to use what's supposed to be constitutionally ours. The problem is their problem. And by the time we got to we talk about the passage of the Voting Rights Act, but look at what is happening as this thing is going. They killed Malcolm in 65. They attacked the Panthers and almost wiped them out. They killed Hampton 69, the New York 21, 69, 21 Panther members in New York locked up on 100. It's not like we had a whole bunch of veterans we can go to and say, how do you make a revolution? So people were thrust into action through spontaneity. Now what we have is the ability to come up with a strategy. So civil rights doesn't define us, we define civil rights. Do you understand what I'm saying? We define civil rights. Civil rights serves the ultimate aim to be to what end that we are fighting for. And I'm convinced that we can win white people to a struggle against colonialism. I don't want to do this anti-racism stuff no more, because it puts white people too often in the situation of having to engage in self-denial. They cannot not be white. You understand? They cannot not be white. But what they can do is refuse to participate with colonialism. That's a political decision. Yeah.
That is the missing piece in the Atlanta Project's Black Power position paper. That is the transitional point that is needed. Brought to the movement that has made the difference.
Right on. That's a fair, yeah. Comrade, like, Uhuru, yeah.
No, I certainly appreciate your leadership. And of course, it's been said that this is a struggle around free speech. And I of course, unite with that idea, but it's also, in my view, a struggle around just fair speech. Like you say, white people cannot not be white, but some of them can struggle to just be fair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just say, hey, this ain't right. Let's just be fair with it, right? And so I looked at this document that we put out. It says there's no political attire allowed in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Right. But as soon as you get to the courthouse, you're gonna see the flag. Right. The United States flag. Thank you. They're gonna have on their political attire. It's gonna be some kind of uniform. It's gonna have a badge. You know, and then when you walk in, you're gonna see some more people in robes and other kind of stuff. They're gonna have flags. They're gonna have all kinds of political speech. Yeah. It ain't even fake. You understand that? Like more than just free speech. Yeah. We don't even get fair speech. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's so important, in my view, that we come out en masse, even if we can't come into the courthouse with our political speech, you know, to match their political speech. We ought to be all around the courthouse, everywhere we can be, with our political fair speech. Because this is a struggle around free speech and fair speech. And it's just so glaring to me, though.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, you can't do expression on your face and all that stuff. Yeah, all of that. And of course, there's a question of free speech. I mean, they say, you know, it comes to this courtroom to deal with a case that where they're around free speech. You can't exercise free speech. That's clearly, you know, what's being said. And the thing that I wanted to say is that I believe this is their conundrum, this whole question of First Amendment, and it's their problem. I believe that they're in a different place today that they may not absolutely understand than in the 1960s. The 1960s, we would have gone in and disrupted that whole process. We would have disrupted, turn your back on the judge, don't stand up when we've done that kind of stuff in the 1960s. It was absolutely powerful and necessary. But this is a whole different period that I think they don't quite understand. And one of the things is that we are not the only people in the world. And in this country is going through a very severe crisis. The whole social fabric of this country is rending from end to end. It's not just black people who hate the FBI. I mean, you had the House, the Congressional House had a hearing on recognizing the FBI. You understand? People are tired of the kind of intrusion in their lives by the state. Yeah. Even if whether the state comes as itself as the state or whether it comes in the form of Zuckerberg and et cetera. People are tired of it. And so you have all these expressions that's going there. We are going to be able to have some serious discussions in that courtroom. We've got, you know, splendid witness and other testimony that's going to come out that I think will tell our story. And so that's what we want. We don't want a mistrial. We don't need a mistrial. They need a mistrial, not us. You understand? We want this trial to proceed, and we want to be able to tell our story. We want to tell our story. You understand? And that's the critical thing. So that's why I go up and not make faces if I can contain myself. You understand? Because I don't want to let them off the hook.
colonial.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna do the perk walk?
No, what is the perk walk? Tell me about the perk walk, Sister Betty. This wonderful comrade here is somebody who shares his wonderful wife with us and with the people. And he introduced himself often as I'm Belinda Parker Brown's husband.
You said something key when you said that you hate the FBI. I'm gonna make a statement, and I want you all to join in with me. Repeat what I say. 2, 4, 6, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. Tell these people who you hate. Tell these people who you hate. FBI. CIA. The whole damn thing.
I want to acknowledge also, Comrade Maureen, and just been a wonderful soldier over the many years, and Kitty Riley. We showed some videos that you might not have recognized. and Mark Anderson and the beard, the red beard.
Next, we're gonna discuss more, Comrade Light had come up and talked about, what to expect on Tuesday. But before we do that, let's first go into the outreach program. And we've got Comrade Bakari Olatunji coming in to speak on our outreach. Uhuru.
Film of Gaza reconnected me with the person who brought me into SNCC, as a minor. In fact, we used to be referred to as SNCC chapter down here in St. Petersburg, Florida. She was a wonderful comrade. She participated, I don't know if you were in that project, but it wrote up that position paper on Palestine.
It was one of the later projects. He had 3 position papers.
Right.
One was on domestic, which was that white people should organize white people, black people should organize black people. International, which included the position that the Palestinian people are entitled to self-determination, which is what you offered reference. And the other was economic development, self-determination. Yeah.
So Ethel was just this wonderful person. We were on the phone with Ethel all the time. And, she's providing leadership and what have you. I just wanted to acknowledge that. 366 Nelson Street. Yeah.
Wonderful program. I really want to appreciate all the discussion, and I'll be very brief. Outreach has been a part of Freedom Summer since its inception. Outreach is going on even today. We have been doing phone banking. We have been doing 4 corners where people go out and give out literature to cars, stop the traffic lights. We have been doing tabling in front of gas stations and stores. We have been doing door-to-door knocking on doors. We have been doing drops going through whole communities. And all of it is to connect us with the people. Outreach is probably what got most of you, if not all of you, here. Outreach is critical and is still happening today. I have 30 people who have signed up for outreach in this process since we've been here. I'm gonna say a few names, and if I didn't say your name, I need you to come to this table and sign up, because you're gonna do some outreach within this next week if you're gonna be here. I have Jan, Dylan, Janet, Lynn, Jerome, Zoe, Kara, Redbeard, Minnie, Penny, Indigo, Peter, John, Denise, Mwezi, Amanda, Denzel, Cleo, Ron, Jamie, Kenneth, Leonardo, Molina, Kabula, Terrence, Benamin, Francisco, and I hope it's Jaime or Jamie. The bottom line is, these are the people who have signed up. I hope to have more names on that list. Please come there today at this table and sign up. We had 2 people who signed up for the bus ride on Tuesday. And we have a bus that is going to be going from here to Tampa. I need more people to sign up for that. So is there a show of hands of people who want to go to Tampa, who need to get on that bus? See, 2 more names, 3 more names, 4, 5. So be sure to come over. I have the bus sign up sheet here. But all of that is to say about people. We will be getting in touch with you. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing outreach. We're going to do
from 1,000, let's make it happen. We got 20 on the table. All right, that gives us 107. 107, we can just go ahead and handle that right now. Yeah. You know, they not like us. Oh. We got a donation? That's right. Say again? We got 50 from 40 from Janet. And 20 from Ellie. Okay. That's right. All right, now we're gonna have Comrade KJ with what you should know and what you should expect. Got a donation from Sean for $50. The KJ and SG and Wendy, all right? So that brings our total $1,067.
Comrades, 1.
Yeah.
So everyone should have picked up at the front desk either yesterday at the HOU booth, either today when you came into the room. I guess I should introduce myself first. My name is Ikinge Maele. I am the Chief of Staff for Chairman Omali Shatella. I'm a proud member of the African People's Socialist Party. Yes, at the HOU desk on yesterday, in your email, as well as today, you should have picked up this sheet that said what you need to know. One of the things that we asked when we sent this out to people was to make sure that you got signed up also too on the emergency response link so that if anything occurred throughout the trial, just as we did prior to the trial, that if we needed people to move immediately, you're locked into that so that we can get out mass texts or mass emails to everyone at one time. So if you didn't register and you're here, we're glad to see you. But what we also ask too is that you get registered. Many of you, Afia, Brother Charles, and some others, Sister Belinda and others, we've registered you already, just to make sure that you are tied, you're looped into the system. So again, as I said, if anything occurs, you are able to get a text. You'll probably receive a call as well, but at least you'll have a mechanism to be able to receive information most immediately. Everyone attended the rally yesterday, which was absolutely powerful. I want to the rain held off for us, so it was a great Florida day, in my opinion. And I really want to just appreciate everyone on the logistics team that was set up and break down and really helped me pull all this together. So the rally was yesterday. Our next, the next thing we want to share with people is September 3rd, the first day of the trial. At 8 a.m., there is a press conference which is going to be held at the courthouse, and at 9 o'clock, court begins. What is important about this is that you got this sheet. What you will also find is that the court is from 9 to 5 every day, and there are some exceptions. So you want to make sure that if you're leaving and coming back, that you are, again, tied into the Hands Up Uhuru website so that you can, and also the emergency response so that you can get any updates. The address of the court is here for anyone that is not staying here in St. Pete. You probably are in Tampa and you're either within walking distance or within a few minutes driving distance of the courthouse. The courtroom is listed here for you, as well as the overflow room. What that means is that since we're gonna pack the courthouse, this is not gonna be enough room for us in the main courtroom. There's an overflow room, and it's important that each day, as long as this trial lasts, that we pack the courthouse each and every day. So you have the information there. If you are staying here in St. Pete, there will be a bus that will leave this address, 1245 18th Avenue South, daily for the court. And I think what did we say, 7:15, probably put the time. Yes. That the bus will be leaving here. What will happen is you need to go over here or see SG and Wavy or either myself, or go online. There is where's the tiny URL?
It's tinyurl.com/Uhuru on page 2 of the document.
Yeah, there it is, you're right. So you have it. I'm gonna go back to some of these things. I think that they're most important. But these are the things that most immediately I want to make sure that people are aware of. If you are in St. Petersburg and want to travel to the port, maybe you decide you don't want to drive your car or whatever, but the bus will leave in the morning and it will come back in the evening. So there will not be any back and forth trips unless obviously there's an emergency or we have to for some unknown reason or another. But we'll pick up in the morning and then go to Tampa and then leave the Tampa port after 5 and return here. But we're also asking if there's anyone here that has the ability, because we have limited seating on the bus. We have about 15 seats left. We have some seats that we've already reserved to make sure that we definitely get some people to Tampa, but you need to go either to the tinyurl.com/Uhuru3bus or see myself, Sister Iwezi, or even let Bakari know, I want to get on the bus, what do I do? Well, immediately whip out our computers, go ahead and get you plugged in, and Comrade Janova, you can see Comrade Janova as well. Where do we want to go next? Let's see, I think that, you know, where the courthouse is, you know, that there is a press conference on Monday. Tuesday, I'm sorry, Tuesday, because tomorrow is the day that people are going to be out doing outreach in Tampa, spreading the word, and really helping us to continue to pack the courthouse out for the entire month. If you're driving, we list here that the courthouse does not have a public parking facility. So you'll want to find the nearest parking. Find the nearest parking facility, and we've also listed a link there for you that you can go on. So in your downtime, spare time, please go and find the closest lot to the courthouse. There is parking on the street. However, just like in most every city, it's metered parking, and you're gonna have to run out every 2 hours, you know, to feed the meter. And what I've heard is that they're not very kind, so your tire is probably marked before you get out there for that second hour to try to stay there for 4 hours, and which means that you're gonna ticket you. And so we can avoid that by simply parking in the lot. I'm suggesting that people ride together, ride share, let's ride share. We can leave, we can carpool from here, if you want to drive with me here. 7 o'clock, bus leaves at 7:15. We can trail the bus over. If you have anyone, if the bus is full and you have the ability to be able to take, you know, one person, let's do that, and let's all get there. Let's see, we already talked to everyone about making sure that you go to the Hands Off Uhuru website, that's where your updates will be, and to make sure that you register with the emergency response system, so that we can make sure that you are plugged in. I'm gonna go over maybe some of the housing and everything else, just because I think the last part is really, really critical.
Before you go to the housing part, are they still not allowing us to wear our watches?
I haven't got there yet. I'm saving all that for last, because I think those are really critical points that it's absolutely important that people hear. So just to go over a few more things, we will have a rally here every Sunday. I know some of you are leaving and coming back, but every Sunday from 4 to 6, will be right here. And again, make sure that you are tied into the emergency response, that you're following the website, because that's the way we're going to communicate information to you. And of course, you know how to probably reach just about everybody that you need to reach. If not, make sure you get my contact information, and make sure you get Hallie's information, who's also sharing responsibility of logistics with me. And we can make sure that whatever it is you need, we're able to get that information. to, I guess probably the most important, and I heard the chairman touch on it just a little bit earlier, and he was absolutely correct, and we want to make sure that we share information with you because, as you said, we don't want a mistrial. We're not going through this all over again. Well, we have the ability to be able to ensure our victory. We're almost there. Now we're just dealing with what they are forcing us to do. So we're gonna get through it, but we already know that we've won. So let's follow these.
Thank you, Comrade King, and I want to just appreciate the logistics committee who have helped to put this document together. And there's more information. This information is subject to change, meaning there might be more protocols that we want to really enforce. But I just want well, as has been stated, very honored to be a member of the African People's Socialist Party and serve as the Secretary General. So just in terms of on page 2 of this document, and I think this is important for those who are tuning in online. Many of you are also we're looking forward to in terms of no political attire in the courtroom. And what this means is this includes buttons, no logos, no slogans, t-shirts, hats, stickers, wristbands. Again, just wear plain clothes. And I see nods. We're plain clothes. Outside the courtroom might look a little different. But for those individuals that are going in the courtroom, this is coming straight from the legal team, to not interact with the jurors at all. This means verbally, non-verbally, in the elevators, no eye or facial gestures, and just avoid them overall and do not speak to them. We will have a press conference. Those who are entering the courtroom as well. And I know there's going to be questions after all of this, so please. Number 3, no weapons at any time. Make sure to remove things like pepper spray, your pocket knives from your purse or your keychain, and say electronic devices. So for example, this includes your cell phone. I'm going to say more about some of these. Your cell phone, laptops, computers, tablets, anything beyond the courthouse and security checkpoint. You're going to go through a checkpoint. And what we did last time for the oral arguments is we left our devices in the vehicle. And there might even be other, arrangements that you all want to do, leave them at home. This also includes Apple Watches. So if you have an Apple Watch that cannot come into the courthouse at whatsoever, we do not have anything set up to collect everybody's, belongings. So we do want to ask everybody to just take responsibility for your own belongings. Again, that's cell phones, computers, laptops, watches as well. Does that address what you were going to say, Comrade? Next is so again, you must present an official photo ID, such as a state ID, a driver's license, any federal identification, military ID, or a passport. So please have that with you. And visitors must pass through again a metal detector and again place your items in the tray to be scanned. And I think there's more information that I might not have on this document, so I know we have to make some updates, but. Yes, so what the chairman was just reiterating is in terms of any actions taking place outside the courtroom, we want people to just go straight inside. And then we're gonna have discussions around those who, because again, as Comrade King said, there is an overflow room. And I don't know how much we want to get into all the details around day one, but there's gonna be a lot of questions, so, but there is an overflow room, and if everybody can't get in the courtroom, we will have options for what we will be doing with comrades and you know, supporters who cannot make it in outside, because there's still work to do. We just heard from Comrade Bakari around outreach. We have to continue to push this trial and get this information out on the street, so.
No one will be able to get in the courtroom on the first day.
Right, so those are some of the details.
Yeah, I was just gonna, probably re-emphasize that, is that on day one is the jury selection. That room is packed, already predetermined that it will be full. There will be a limited number of people that will be in the overflow. And some of you, we'll make sure we know who that is. But I think also in addition to that, there's what was said was that I'm gonna start by saying we're asking everyone that is in solidarity with the Uhuru 3 in unity with why we are here to exercise revolutionary discipline. No actions outside of the courthouse. Or correct, or inside of the courthouse. First of all, this is federal court. This is not state court where you go down there and 50,000 people are standing to pay their tickets and all kinds of stuff breaks off and it's something. This isn't that. This is not that. And in order for us to continue to be victorious, as we already have proven that we are and will be, we are asking everyone to adhere to what it is that we're asking. Plain clothes, have your identification, take your phone off, take your pepper spray off, your knife, whatever it is. Yes.
You say plain clothes, and I wear that sheet. I don't know whether it's a political statement, but that's all I have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that, when we say plain clothes, what we mean is nothing logo. People looking at t-shirts here. I mean, don't even have "Hi Mom" on your t-shirt. You know what I'm saying? Just a blue, plain blue, white, you're gonna wear a t-shirt, it should be solid, not have anything on it, not on the front, not on the back, not on the arm, not on the neck.
No slogans.
Yes, right here.
Me?
Yes.
Are you sure about the cell phone, that they won't even allow cell phones inside?
Yes.
Okay. The other thing is, if we're not allowed to bring in the courtroom, we can't bring in our cell phones. That means that we won't be able to receive any updates via cell. Any updates on the via text on the cell phone would be useless during that time. Then,
which means that you'll have to get them once you're outside of the courthouse.
Okay.
No cell phones.
They're gonna take it.
Yeah. Where is Sister Belinda?
You know, I recommend, I know that you said that be careful with no interaction with the jurors, but I also recommend that we don't have any interactions with anyone that we do not know.
Yes.
Because they will put a trap in the midst of us, and all they need is a witness to say something, that somebody said something that they didn't say, and there we go.
I unite. So, I mean, just so everyone's, did everyone hear that?
I'll say it again. As an expert in court watching, I know the traps that they set for us. You can actually, somebody can drop something on the floor and you reach down and pick it up for them, trying to be courteous. And they will go back into the chambers and tell the judge that you interacted or you said something that you didn't say. The trap is set. So now you're talking to someone, don't even say hi, don't ask nobody for a piece of gum or a peppermint that you don't know. Because it's a trap. And if somebody walk up to you that you don't know, you look the other way. And mind your business.
Is there an assigned number of people to already go into the courtroom?
We will be making those assignments.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I just want to first off say how much I appreciate this process.
I can barely hear you.
I just want to say I really appreciate this process and it's really comprehensive. And I just wanted to raise that my goals for over a decade here was safety Tampa. And Howard Franklin rush hour crashes with start runs that are really atrocious. And I always had to be on campus well before then, but like after 7:30 and after 4 p.m. it's going to take you a lot longer than a half an hour. So I'm thinking that you might want to, especially the day of court opening, but we might not make a press conference. It's not Tuesday. That might not be enough time. So just wanted to share that.
No, typically in federal court, my question is that typically in federal court, there's a call-in number that people can dial to listen in on the case. Is that available here in this case?
I've never heard of that.
I'm not sure. We should take a note of
Yeah,
that.
I didn't see that on their website, because I know that's what we got.
Oh, we got.
We'll make that cool.
Yeah, at least in the district court in California, the district or whatever it's called, typically, they allow people to call in, but we would have to get that information from the lawyers. And then, put it.
If they're journalists or TV reporters outside the courthouse and they interact with us, what's your advice on that?
Sandy.
Well,
The question was if who is a journalist or any media type person interact with any body, what should, how should we?
We really haven't discussed that with the steering committee in terms of, I mean, generally, there's press conference, press statements.
Media outside that talks to people.
Yeah.
So
So
there's-
direct them to our spokesperson for the day.
Right, there you
Which is
go.
our MC will be in place. So they should not, you should direct them to our spokesperson, not go off and do your own inquiries. And we can converse and just make determinations, but yes, please.
So the question was, what should you do if media approaches? And the response is to reach out to the spokesperson for the party, which will be SGM Lazy, at least for the first.
Yeah, she's our media spokesperson
week.
for that day.
Yeah. For the,
I want to add to that, that is very critical. And follow those directions because they're trying to get a name for themselves or be seen on the news. That is critical because the media is tricky. Malcolm X said that, the provocateurs, is that how you pronounce the word or whatever?
Yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about. It's the media.
Yeah.
They're the ones. And they would trip and trap up anything that you say, okay, and put it out there in the news. Matter of fact, they even got the what's that AI they're using right now that make you look like somebody that you're not in your voice saying words that you didn't say. So don't talk to the media.
Yeah.
So there will be a spokesperson for an organization on the ground that we know who that is.
Yeah.
Like if we're all outside the courthouse.
yes.
Yeah.
So the spokesperson is SGM Lazy here.
I believe
Oh,
that
the
I'm
attorney.
assigned to be press liaison. And so I just want to check
Stand
to
up so
see
we
if this is correct, that if a media outlet approaches anybody, they should be told to come see the press liaison, who will then get in contact with Chair Wazy to set up interviews.
There you go.
I wanna-
That's right. You're
Then
correct.
Sandy,
Well, I believe,
I say our media will be identifiable with press badges as well. So, just to know, but yes, Lee is going to be the press liaison, which also includes
see media coming up, getting all of that contact, so we know, from the media who was there, and then facilitating, any kind of interviews, that we want to have.
But related to that, should people hesitate to speak to our media?
What?
Hesitate to speak to our media if they're approached?
No. Yeah, I'm saying that because our media, I'm sure will want to talk to people who are there.
Yeah.
And if they're going to be identified, I think that's
Yeah.
really important. So
Yeah.
people shouldn't hesitate to speak to our media.
Right, with the exception of Bernie Spear.
Yeah.
There you go, with the exception of Bernie Spear media, and I think that, what Sister Belinda was saying was really correct. All of it is that don't talk to anybody unless it's somebody that you know, and probably people right here in this room, that will be there over the next few weeks. Don't talk to anybody. Because I know that the press can be persistent also. Sometimes people, I see you with them or I saw you with them, I can't talk to you.
I believe also as media liaison, job is to actually intervene. So if you see the media talking to someone who is not Chair Moise, to go over, kind of remind the person, the supporter who's talking, and tell the media, we would like you to direct your questions to the press conference.
Uhuru comrades. So we're gonna move on to announcements. I really want to salute my leadership. And here. That we have the trial date, which is September 3rd. It's located at Tampa Division Courthouse, which is 801 North Florida Avenue in Tampa, Florida, 33602. You can go to handsoffahuru.org to sign up for alerts and get other information if you haven't already. And then the Sunday rallies are here every Sunday at the Uhuru House. And don't forget to sign up with Comrade Bakri for daily outreach like phone banking, distributing flyers, and postering. So, comrades, what an incredible event that we had today. We had the African People's Socialist Party to the critical insights in terms of solidarity with African liberation. And we've been reminded of the ongoing struggle for our democratic rights and the importance of staying vigilant, of staying united. Chairman O'Malley Ishitella's words, as always, they resound deeply. They highlight our rich revolutionary history and the urgent need to continue this fight. And we're inspired and by the voices of all who've dedicated their lives to this movement. And we've seen firsthand the resilience and the strength that defines our people. So as we prepare to lead today, let's not forget that this is just the beginning. The struggle continues, and we have to carry the energy and the determination from this rally into our daily lives and into our communities and into the actions that we take. So before we close, I want us to all raise our voices in unity. As one powerful voice, we're gonna send a message that's gonna echo far beyond these walls. So on my count, and now let's continue the celebration of unity and strength. We're going to indulge in the feast, the caribou that awaits us. So let's break bread together. Let's share our stories. Let's build even stronger bonds as we prepare for the battle ahead. And again, let's keep the spirit of Uhuru alive in everything that we do.